Hello, and welcome to today's quick plays video on preflop set mining. Set mining can be a very profitable play, but many players set mine too liberally and incur extra losses because of it. In this video, we'll discuss what to look for before set mining and how you can increase your win rate when calling these pocket pairs preflop. Set mining is when we call a raise with a pocket pair preflop with the goal of flopping a set and getting paid off. Commonly this is done with smaller pairs preflop, specifically deuces to sixes, since these pairs usually won't flop over pairs postflop or pairs with any sort of inherent showdown value. That being said, there are times when we'll call with pairs like sevens or nines, and our primary plan is to set mine. Before we even push the call button preflop, we want to consider four main factors to ensure our set mine will be plus EV. Taking a bunch of unprofitable set mines is a great way to set money on fire, so knowing how to find profitable set mines is very valuable. Let's take a situation like this where early position open raises and it folds to us in the cutoff with pocket fours. Rather than call just because we have a small pair, let's consider some important aspects of a profitable set mine. First, let's make sure the stack sizes are deep enough. We don't want to set mine if either of us has a very small stack, as we won't be able to win very much the times we do catch our set. I suggest using the 25x rule, meaning that we can win at least 25 times the open raise when we do flop a set, and I'll quickly explain why. The old rule for set mining was the 5-10 rule, which looked at the open raise size compared to the effective stack size, which is the smallest of the stacks involved in a hand. With the 5-10 rule, you would always set mine if the open raise was for less than 5% of the effective stacks. You never set mine if it was for more than 10% of the effective stack, and in the middle was just a judgment call. So essentially at 20x you would always set mine. That rule is slightly antiquated because players today don't automatically stack off over pairs and single pairs postflop as much as they did in 2005. The numbers come from how often we flop a set or better. With a small pair like fours, we're flop a set or better 12% of the time, but we aren't always going to get paid off every single time we flop a set, factoring in the times they have ace king on a queen 7-4 board or the times they have jacks on an ace queen 4-8 board. And there will also be times when we flop a set and lose to a higher set or they improve on a draw. So numbers like 20x or 25x have buffer built into them for the times we don't exactly flop our set and win a stack. My 25x rule adds even extra buffer to ensure that the set mines I take are more ideal and factors in the times when I don't flop sets or flop sets and get zero action. It should also be noted that I will sometimes set mine for less than 25x with ideal conditions that we'll talk about in a minute, and there are times when I won't set mine even if I am getting 25x. The 25x is just a single element when set mining, not the end-all be-all. We also want to consider who opened the pot. What kind of hands did they likely open raise with, and how are they likely to play them post-flop? Ideally we want to set mine when it's likely that we can actually get paid when we flop our set. So players who open raise very strong ranges, like 8s plus and ace king, are prime candidates because they will flop strong hands a lot of the time when we flop our set. A player with a wide opening range will flop weaker hands and won't be strong enough often enough to pay us off when we do hit our set. At the same time, we also want to consider how far they will take over pairs and top pairs postflop. If a player isn't likely to get it all in postflop with these hand types, then we likely won't be able to make enough money the times we do catch our set. Speaking of postflop, we also want to think about our position. Being in position postflop makes our lives much easier both when we catch and miss our set. The times we miss our set, we can always try and stab at the flop when our opponent checks us, whereas being out of position doesn't afford us that luxury. And even when we do flop our set out of position, it can be much tougher to maximize value since our opponent can always exercise pot control and limit how much money we can make. As a general rule, I am much more selective when set mining out of position and tend to pass on set mines that aren't ideal. And lastly, we want to consider who are the players behind us and how will they likely react if we call. When you set mine from late position, there will be fewer players left to act, but when set mining from early or middle position, there are many more players left to act, for better or worse. When analyzing the players behind us, I heavily suggest looking for fish and squeezers. Calling station fish are great, especially in the blind since we have position on them postflop, as they offer an extra source of money for us to win. Just make sure to look at the stack sizes to make sure the money we could win is plentiful enough. Because there are multiple sources of implied odds, I will still set mine even when the fish wouldn't offer me 25x by himself, but the shorter the fish's stack size is, the less value he's going to be able to offer me. We also want to be on the lookout for squeezers, since we don't want to call the open raise, face a lot of squeezes, and be forced to fold when it comes back to us. Why bother putting in money when we won't even be able to see if we flop our set? So as a general rule, we like calling stations behind us and dislike squeezers and very aggressive players. This is oftentimes overlooked by new players, but can help you find better set mining spots with ease. No matter if you are a live poker player or a micro-limit online player, improvements in your set mines can quickly increase your win rate. By removing losing set mines from your strategy and replacing them with either neutral folds or profitable 3-bets, you could easily see a 5 to 10% win rate boost over time. Internalize this checklist and make sure to consider the basic math and reactions of your opponents before automatically calling that small pair preflop. And remember, if you can't call and set mine profitably, your only options left are to 3-bet or fold, and folding can be the best option. Same as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment. Otherwise, good luck and happy grinding.